Okay, so for my first Emerald meeting, it was about sexual assault and the community's response to the obscene acts of Larry Nassar. It was a very emotional meeting because of the climate of our campus at the time. Everyone pretty much just shared their feelings about the situations and their beliefs about the enabling that went on within the university. The situation related heavily to topics of privilege and toxic masculinity. Larry Nassar was a white male in a position of power, and society let him be in control of every situation that he had with a patient. Um, Society has taught women not to cross a man or anyone in a position of power even if they're truly wrong. This is what the culture of toxic masculinity has created in this world. Um, Doctors sexually assaulting their patients. Everyone in the meeting had pretty much the same response, that the things that Larry Nassar did and the enabling that happened at the university was horrible and disgusting, and that something needs to change. And that everyone felt that way. This was a very communal feeling throughout the meeting. In the second Emerald meeting, we discussed climate change, and it was interesting to discuss this topic with people who aren't STEM majors, because as a STEM major, usually when I talk about climate change, it's in a science class and it's heavily related to the cause and effect scientifically of like what is going on, like what CO2 does in the atmosphere. But in this discussion, we talked about the effect on people and how different cultures are affected by and react to climate change. We did an activity that showed how, in times of crisis, like the effects of climate change, high-power countries like the U.S. will harvest resources from countries that aren't as wealthy or powerful. And this is another example of privilege, but this time it's the privilege of the whole country. This reminded me of the denial stage in Bennett's model. As citizens of this powerful nation, we are taking from less powerful countries without even acknowledging the fact that they have different situations and they're genuinely struggling. We just assume that they are just like us and we need it more. And we don't actually think about them, we are only thinking about ourselves. So we aren't acknowledging their culture at all, we're completely in denial. And the last Emerald I attended, we discussed the separation of church and state. Most of the discussion was based around deciding whose rights were more important, because with the law of separation and church and state, it causes people's rights to come into conflict a lot. For example, when the owners of Hobby Lobby were given the right to deny contraceptives to their employees, the employees weren't guaranteed their right of health care. And in these situations, the government often chooses to maintain the rights of religious, white people, and those who haven't really ever been too exposed to prejudice throughout the history of our nation. We always fall back on this group of people. This reminds me of the topic of discrimination that we discussed in class. The group that has dominance in our nation has consistently been the group that gets to keep their rights. So the other groups who get their rights taken away are being discriminated against. This is not fair, and as a nation, we need to find a way to stop discriminating and give everyone their rights. And this is kind of a topic of controversy in the meeting, because with these conflicts, you have to choose a side, because it's hard to find another way, and that's what we need to do. But in the meeting, we were talking about whose side to pick, and it was just confusing. And that was the first time in an Emerald meeting that I had people disagree on things, and they were like really disagree, like, because you had to pick a side, so we were picking different sides. And I thought that was interesting. And I think just generally throughout the Emerald meetings, it was very like awakening to talk about these intense topics and just understand what people in the university are thinking and what they understand about it. And I think it really connected well to the topics that we learned in TE 150, and I am glad that I had to do it.